Hey everybody, Mr. Smolen here again for this week's edition of Story Time with Mr. Smolen. So we've got another great book. This book was actually recommended by Mrs. Skolton. So thank you, Miss Skolton, for the shout out for this book. But let's get to the book. As always, give me that drum roll, please. Our story this week is Gaston. And it is written by Kelly DiPuccio with pictures by Christian Robinson. So let's get going on this. Gaston. I like saying that. Gaston. All right, here we go. Mrs. Poodle admired her new puppies. There was Fifi, Fufu, Ooh La La, and Gaston. Would you like to see them again? Fifi, Fufu, Ooh La La, and Gaston. Perfectly precious, aren't they? Look at those cute little pooches. Mrs. Poodle taught so too. The puppies grew as puppies do. They were no bigger than teacups. The fourth, however, continued to grow and grow until he was the size of a teapot. Oh, look how much bigger he is. Mrs. Mrs. Poodle took pride in teaching her puppies how to be proper pooches. They were taught to sip, never slobber. Good, well done, very nice. Nice try. Look at Gaston. They were taught to yip, never yap. Yip, yip, yip. Roof. And they were taught to walk with grace, never race. Tip-toe, tippity-toe. Whoa! Look at Gaston just taking off like a crazy man. The puppies were also taught how to look pretty in pink, nibble their kibble, and ride in style. Whatever the lesson, Gaston worked the hardest, practiced the longest, and smiled the biggest. Oh, look at them there riding. Mrs. Poodle was very pleased with all her puppies. Fifi, Fufu, Ooh La La, and Gaston. Spring arrived, and the proud mother was eager to show off her darlings. She took them to the park for their very first stroll in public. There was a much to see. Daffodils, ducklings, dogs. Oh dear, who do we have here? Rocky, Ricky, Bruno, and Antoinette. Would you like to see them again? Notice some. Rocky, Ricky, Bruno, and Antoinette. There was more than a little awkward moment. The mother sized up the pups. The pups sized up one another. It seems there's been a terrible mistake, Mrs. Bulldog said, breaking the silence. Wee wee, Mrs. Poodle agreed sadly. Whatever shall we do? Mrs. Bulldog could not come up with an answer. I guess we'll let them decide, she replied at last. Must have been a switch up. Gaston and Antoinette were young, but even they could see that there had been a mix-up. The two puppies began to circle around the group. Gaston walked with grace. Antoinette raced. Gaston yipped. Antoinette yapped. Oh man. And when they finally came to a stop, the puppies had traded places. There, that looked right. It just didn't feel right. Antoinette and Gaston. That evening, Antoinette tried to fit in with her new sisters, but she did not like anything proper or precious or pink. Phooey! On the other side of town, Gaston tried to fit in with his new brothers, but he did not like anything brutish or brawny or brown. Here he says, "Ick! Bulldogs were ruined. Ugh, stinky sock even. Ugh." Antoinette and Gaston weren't the only ones who weren't having a hard time adjusting. Look at mine. You think they're missing there? Ooh. How do you think they're feeling? They're feeling a little pretty sad. Oh. The next morning, Mrs. Poodle forgot all about being proper and raced back to the park. Mrs. Bulldog was already there waiting with her burly brood. Here it says, "It seems we made a terrible mistake," she nearly shouted. "Wee wee," Miss Poodle agreed happily. Alright, they're waiting, they're racing. This time, Gaston and Antoinette wasted no time trading places. There, that looked right and it felt right too. Gaston's back with his family, and Antoinette's back with her family. From that day forward, the families met in the park every afternoon to play. Rocky, Ricky, Bruno, and Antoinette taught the poodle puppies a thing or two about being tough. Oh. Likewise, Fifi, Fufu, Ooh La La, and Gaston taught the bulldog puppies a thing or two about being tender. And many years later, when Gaston and Antoinette fell in love and had puppies of their own, they taught them to be whatever they wanted to be. Look at those little puppies. They're all grown up. And that's our story. Who liked that story? Anybody like that story? I love that story. I think that story is all about being who you want to be, not letting other people tell you what they want to be, but be you. All right, my friends, as always, I hope you had a great time with this week's Story Time with Mr. Smolen. I look forward to reading you another story next week. Have a great